Students, can anyone tell me, can you see the slide?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So today we will be discussing the unit 2 of organizational leadership. That is something related to leadership traits and ethics. So this unit is a very big module, but we'll try to understand each concept in detail. So leadership traits and ethics. So in the first unit we understood about the trait theory of leadership, which was the foundation for the field of leadership studies. The original study of trait theory was also called the great man approach, which sought to identify the traits the effective leaders possessed. And even students, we even understood that trait researchers examine personality, their physical abilities, and even the social and work-related characteristics. Now, in this particular unit, which is again, we'll be understanding a lot of concepts in this unit. We'll try to understand the personality and traits, right? So, personality traits and leadership. See, when we speak about personality and traits, so why are some people outgoing and others shy, loud and quiet, warm and cold, aggressive and passive, right? See, in your class itself, if you can see, some people are shy natured, some are loud, some are very quiet, some are warm, cold, some are very aggressive, and some are passive. Every individual on this earth will be having a unique characteristics. Students, am I audible? Can anyone reply yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me continue. So the list of behaviors is made up of individual traits. So please understand, students. So as you can see the slide over there, traits are distinguishing personal characteristics. So personality is a combination of traits that classifies an individual's behavior. So understanding people's personalities is important because personality affects behavior as well as perceptions and attitudes. So knowing personalities will help us to explain and predict the behavior and even the job performance. So if you know a person is very shy, just I want to give an example for this personality traits and leadership. If we know that a person is very shy, you can better understand why they're quiet when meeting new people. You can also predict that the person will be quiet when they go places and meet new people. So you can also better understand why the person would not seek a job as a salesperson. Correct? And if he or she did, you could predict that the person might not be very successful, because for a sales, you should be aggressive, you should meet people, you should discuss about the product. But the people who are shy natured might not be so successful in the sales job. It is because of the personality. So what we say here, personality is a combination of traits that classifies an individual's behavior. So personality, students, it is developed based on genetics. That is very important. Genetics and environmental factors. The genes, sometimes we say, no, his father was very silent. So even the son is like that, same like the father. Or his mom is very aggressive. So he has come according to his mom. He is also very aggressive, right? So even genes you received before you were born influence your personality traits. And the next thing, what the next factor is your family, friends, school, and the working environment also influence your personality. And before going in depth about the personality classification, the Big Five model of personality traits is the most widely accepted way to classify personalities because of its strong research support. So next slide, we'll try to understand the big 5 dimensions of traits, or the big 5 model of personality. Please see the slide over there, which is one of the important part of this subject itself, okay? So the big 5 model of personality. So what is this big 5 model of personality? The purpose of the big 5 is to reliably categorize into one of the 5 dimensions most, if not all, of the traits you would use to describe someone else. So students, each dimension includes multiple traits. The big 5 model of personality categorizes traits into the dimensions. You can see the slide over there. The dimensions are surgency, agreeableness, adjustment, conscientiousness, and openness to experience. So we will try to understand each dimension to know the personality. So first we'll take, students, this is very important, please try to understand surgency. Number 1, the big 5 model of personality, we will take surgency. See, the surgency personality dimension includes leadership and extraversion traits. Right? I'm repeating once again. The surgency personality dimension includes leadership and extraversion traits. So people strong in surgency, they're more commonly called dominance. They dominate. They have a dominating nature. We sometimes say, no, in the organization, when you're working, hey, our manager is very dominant. So whatever he says should happen in the organization. So it is because of the surgency personality dimension. Right? So they're very dominant, and personality traits want to be in charge. So their dominant behavior ranges from interest in getting ahead and leading through competing and influencing. And please note, students, people who are weak in surgency, I'm repeating once again, people who are weak in surgency, they always want to be followers, and they do not want to compete or influence anybody. Right? So extraversion, I use the word extraversion when it comes to surgency, is on continuum between extrovert and introvert. So whom do you call extroverts? So extroverts are outgoing. They like to meet new people and are willing to confront others, whereas introverts are shy. Right? So extraversion is a continuum between extrovert and introvert. So extroverts are outgoing, like meeting new people, and are willing to confront others, whereas introverts are very, very shy-natured people. Yeah, you can see the slide over there. Whatever I have explained, I have put in the slide. Again, I'm repeating. I'm referring the textbook Lucier, which is one of the recommended book of the university. Okay. So as per your syllabus, I'm trying to explain each concept. So whatever I explained, I'm just referring to that. See the slide over there. The surgency personality dimension includes leadership and extraversion traits. So people who are strong in surgency, more commonly called dominance, personality traits want to be in charge. So extraversion is a continuum between extrovert and introvert. So I think in your class, many are extroverts and many are introverts. It is not their mistake, because the lot of factors have influenced to become like that. In your class itself, we can see many students who take the surgency personality dimension, who are very dominant, right? So they're very strong in decision taking. They always lead the group, correct? So we call them as the surgency personality dimension, or extroverts basically. Okay, then the second dimension, that is agreeableness. Students, are you understanding? Can anyone reply yes sir, so that I can proceed? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 1 minute, let me see how many of them. So all of you by this time have understood the clear meaning of extroverts and introverts. So introverts are very shy natured people, whereas extroverts are very outgoing. They like to meet new people and are willing to confront others. Right? Next, the second, that is agreeableness. See, unlike the urgency behavior to get ahead of others, the agreeableness personality dimension includes traits related to getting along with people. So agreeable personality behavior is strong when a person is called warm, easygoing, compassionate, friendly, and even sociable. So it is weak when a person is called cold, difficult, uncompassionate, unfriendly, and even unsociable. So strongly agreeable personality types are sociable. They spend most of their time with the people and have lots of friends. Right? So as you can see the slide over there, I've explained it over there. Agreeableness personality dimension includes traits related to getting along with the people. So agreeable personality behavior is strong when a person is called warm and caring, easygoing, compassionate, and gentle, friendly, and sociable. Right? So these are the characteristics of agreeableness. Then we have adjustment. So what we are studying now, we are studying the big five model of personality. So we are understanding the big five dimensions of traits. The first one, what we understood, was urgency. The second one was agreeableness. So now we'll try to understand adjustment. So the adjustment personality dimension includes traits related to emotional stability. So adjustment is on a continuum between being emotionally stable and unstable. So stable refers to self-control, that is being calm. So very good under pressure, relaxed, secure, and always they think positive and they appreciate or praise others. Whereas unstable is what? Is out of control. They're very poor under pressure. They become nervous under pressure. They sometimes feel insecure and always think negative and keep on criticizing others. Right? So that is adjustment personality dimension. Okay? Which includes traits related to emotional stability. So adjustment is on a continuum between being emotionally stable and unstable. Then the fourth, dimension of traits, that is conciseness personality dimension, which includes traits related to achievement. So it is also on a continuum between responsible or dependable to irresponsible or undependable. I'm repeating. It is also on a continuum between responsible or dependable to irresponsible or undependable. So other traits of high consciousness include, please understand now, credibility, conformity, and organization. So people with these traits are characterized as willing to work hard and put in extra time and effort to accomplish goals and also to achieve the success. So if you have seen some of the people, they will never go to bed unless they complete their assignments. They will never go to bed unless they prepare today's goals. They will never go to, they basically, the traits are related to achievements. Unless they finish the target for a particular day, so they will not go to the next step. So it's also a continuum between the responsible or dependable to irresponsible or undependable. Okay, then we will try to understand openness to experience. That is the fifth dimension of the traits. So what we are studying now, we are trying to understand the big five model of personality. So the openness to experience personality dimension includes traits related to being willing to change and try new things. That means innovation, creativity. So they are very imaginative, non-conforming. They're very people who are strong in openness to experience. They seek change and trying new things. While those with the weak openness dimension avoid change and new things. So they're very imaginative students. So they're non-conforming, unconventional, and autonomous. They always think out of the box. So while those with the weak openness dimension avoid change and new things. So what we understood now, we understood the big five dimensions of traits. Now, please see the slide over there. Traits of effective leaders. So before going to traits of effective leaders or understanding the traits of effective leaders, we'll try to understand the personality profiles. See, personality profiles identify or helps an individual or helps you to identify whether someone is stronger or weaker. Correct? So personality profiles are used to categorize people as a means of predicting job success. So many organizations, students, they give personality test to ensure a proper match between the worker and the job, whether the employee can cope up with the pressure, right? So the big five model has a universal application across cultures. So even some of the research or studies have shown that people from Asian, Western European, Middle Eastern, and then North and South American cultures seem to use the same five personality dimensions. Overall, students, the best predictor of job success on a global basis is the conciseness dimension. Right? So now we'll try to understand the traits of effective leaders. Now, globally, students, researchers who are not concerned with the personality or a system of categorizing the traits wanted to identify a list of traits that effective leaders have. So in the first unit, we try to understand some of the attributes of a leader. The leadership style is concerned. So there appear to be some traits that consistently differentiate leaders from others. So trait theory does have claim to universality. However, students, again, you should realize that there is no one list of traits accepted by all the researchers. So if you are not strong on everyone, it doesn't mean that you can't be a successful leader. So we'll try to understand the effective leader traits or some of the commonly identified, globally accepted traits of effective leaders. So as you can see in the flowchart over there, dominance, high energy, internal locus of control. I'll explain each one in detail, students, but I'm just listing now. Integrity, flexibility. Then very important is self-confidence, stability, intelligence, and sensitivity to others. So what we are studying now, we are trying to understand the traits of effective leaders. So first and the foremost, let me take a dominance. So dominance, which we called a leadership, correct, is one of the two major traits of the surgency. If you understand the surgency, we told he'll be very aggressive, he'll be very dominant, right? So successful leaders want to be managers and to take charge. However, they're not overally bossy, nor do they use a bullying style. So if a person does not want to be a leader, chances are they will not be an effective managers too. So thus the dominance trait affects all other traits related to effective leaders. Now, for example, students, if you want to understand dominance, if you push people into the management positions, there is a high probability that they will lack self-confidence and do not have much energy for the job. Why? No, because due to the pressure of the job, they don't want. They may also not be stable in the position or sensitive to others. So sometimes what happens, even if there is a position in the organization to elevate yourself to the next level, people say, no, sir, I'm very comfortable in this position. That means what? They do not want to take risk. So they lack confidence. So due to which they'll be staying in the same position, right? But an effective leader, what he'll do? He'll accept the challenges. He'll take the risk. He'll be very dominant in his position. So he'll definitely go to the next level in the organization, right? So that is what is dominance mean here when we speak about the traits of effective leaders. Now the second trait over there is high energy. Now leaders have drive and work hard to achieve goals. Very important is students, they should have a great stamina and tolerate stress level. People say we can manage any number of machines, but managing people is a Herculean task. So for that, you require high energy. Your stamina should be very, very high. So leaders have enthusiasm and they do not give up. They always deal with, but don't accept setbacks. They never accept setbacks. However, they're not viewed as pushy and obnoxious. They have a high tolerance for frustrations as they strive to overcome obstacles through preparation. So leaders take initiative to bring about improvements rather than ask permissions. They don't have to be told what to do. So high energy is the best categorized as the consciousness dimension of the big five. Now you all should ask a question to yourself that, do you have high energy level? I asked a question. Do you have high energy level, students? Padmaja, do you have high energy level? Oh, today the energy level of the students, it is very low. Huh? Good morning, Anisha. Am I audible? Ashwini, good morning. Students, am I audible? Can anyone reply yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Then I am asking you, do you have high energy level? Then all have muted and gone to sleep or what? Or preparing breakfast or eating breakfast? Kedar, do you have a high energy level?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at least reply. That's great. Okay, let me continue now. Now the third one is internal locus of control. So locus of control is a continuum between external and internal belief in control over one's destiny. Externalizers believe that they have no control over their fate and that their behavior has little to do with their performance. So, what we are studying now, we are trying to understand the traits of effective leaders. So, locus of control is a continuum between external and internal belief in control over one's destiny. So, what do you mean by locus of control here? They generally have lower levels of performance. So, internalizers, that is, leaders believe that they control their fate and that their behavior directly affects their performance. Leaders take the responsibility for who they are, for their behavior and performance, and for the performance of their organizational unit. They are usually self-confident and learn from their mistakes rather than blaming others or just bad luck. So I always tell, right, a leader is one, when the success happens, he always tells that it is because of the team. But when a failure happens, a leader will directly take the blame on himself. It is because of me, right? Then self-confidence. So self-confidence on a continuum from strong to weak indicates whether you are self-assured in your judgments, decision-making ideas, and capabilities. Self-confidence influences individual goals, efforts, and task persistence. And students, please note that without strong self-confidence, leaders are less likely to attempt to influence followers, to take on difficult tasks, and set to challenging objectives for themselves and followers. So self-confidence is positively related to effectiveness and is a predictor of advancement to higher levels of management. So leaders are, however, realistically self-confident. They are not viewed as arrogant. Self-confidence is best categorized as the Constantine's Big Five dimension because people who are dependable often have self-confidence and high energy. So what we are studying now, we are trying to understand the traits of effective leaders. Then stability. We say, right, you are very stable. Your performance is very stable. So stability is associated with managerial effectiveness and advancement. The adjustment Big Five dimension is associated with managerial effectiveness and advancement. Sometimes we say stable leaders are emotionally in control of themselves. They're very secured and they're very positive. They always think positive. Unfortunately, there are some unstable leaders too who misuse the power. Correct? It has also been shown that effective leaders have a good understanding of their own strength and weaknesses, and they are oriented towards self-improvement rather than being defensive. Then we have integrity. Integrity refers to what? To behavior that is honest and ethical, making a person trustworthy. So ethics, honesty, it refers to what? It refers to truthfulness rather than deception. Honesty is nearly always the best policy. Many leaders believe that integrity is the most important asset you can possess. Trustworthiness is an important part of any business student's success today. Trusting relationships are at the heart of profit making and sustainability in the global knowledge-based economy. So, honesty and trust are very, very important in any organization for that sake. If you lie with your employer, then you can be fired immediately. So, we all should trust each other. So, the ability to influence is based on your integrity. So followers must trust the leader. Unless you are perceived to be a trustworthy, it is difficult to retain the loyalty of followers or to obtain the cooperation and support from peers and even the superiors. See, just a small example I want to give at GE USA. Integrity is so important at GE that it is its core value. Some of the companies in uh, some of the multinational companies believe that the core value is its integrity. The former CEO of GE, Jack Welch, told employees to do everything with integrity. So the question what you need to ask is, as a student now, integrity, that means, are you loyal towards your studies? Right? Are you doing enough hard work towards your studies? Are you giving back something to the society? First, are you giving something back to your parents? Right? As a student, you need to ask all these questions to yourself. Then comes intelligence. See, intelligence refers to cognitive ability to think critically, to solve problems, and even to make decisions. It is also referred to as general mental ability. Then we have flexibility. What do you mean by flexibility? Flexibility refers to the ability to adjust to different situations. So without flexibility, students, leaders should be successful only in the limited situation that fit their style of leadership. Thus, effective leaders are flexible and adapt to the situations. We sometimes say, no, hey, you are very adaptable. See, sometimes, Danaher, who is a general manager of HP medical products, he always says that change is painful and someone may have to be the bad guy. So you need to charge ahead, accepting that not everyone will follow and that some won't survive. So flexibility is categorized with the big five: openness to experience dimension. Are you flexible? That is the question what you need to ask. And very, very important is emotional intelligence. We also call as EQ. EI is the ability to work well with people, and EI is essentially to healthy relationships. See, Jeff Tyler, that is the founder of Monster, and Matt Goldman, co-founder of Blue Man Group, recommend developing your people skills or your EQ, that is emotional quotient, or intelligence EI. It has been said that, students, please note, IQ gets you the job. I'm repeating once again, IQ gets you the job, whereas EQ gets you promoted. So there are four components of EQ: self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. Now, what do you mean by self-awareness? It relates to being conscious of your emotions and how they affect your personal and professional life. Some believe that self-awareness is the greatest predictor of success in everything we do. Then social awareness relates to the ability to understand others in the society. So empathy is the ability to put yourself in other people's situation, sense their emotions, and understand things from their perspective. Successful leaders can deal with the diversity of people with different points of view and feelings, including personalities that are emotionally stable. Self-management. It relates to the ability of control disruptive emotions. Successful leaders don't let negative emotions. So when I use the word negative emotion, students, it can be worry, anxiety, fear, negativity, anger, interfere with getting things done effectively. So optimism can be learned. So think can always be positive in your life. Then we have relationship management. See, relationship management relates to their ability to work well with others, which is dependent on other three EQ components. So successful leaders build effective relationships by communicating, responding to emotions, handling conflict, and even influencing others. Then we have sensitivity to others. Sensitivity to others. See, sensitivity to others refers to understanding the group members as individuals, what their positions on issues are, and how best to communicate with and influence them. So, lack of sensitivity, students, is a part of the reason for executive derailment. So, you need to have and convey an interest in other people. So, sensitivity means not focusing on putting yourself first and remembering then often the more you give away, the more you have. Sensitivity is critical when playing the negotiator leadership role. Correct? So, if you are concerned only about yourself and don't understand what the other party wants, you probably will not be very successful. Next, we'll try to understand achievement motivation theory. See, achievement motivation theory attempts to explain and predict the behavior and performance based on a person's need for achievement, power, and affiliation. Theory in it was actually in the year 1940s when the late David McClelland originally developed achievement motivation theory. So he believes that we have needs and that our needs motivate us to satisfy them. So our behavior is thus motivated by our needs. However, McClelland says that is an unconscious process. So further states that needs are based on personality and are developed as we interact with the environment. So students, please understand that all people possess the need for achievement, power, and affiliation, but to varying degrees. So one of the three needs tends to be dominant in each one of us and motivates our behavior. The need for achievement we call ENAC, the need for power we call NPOW, and the need for affiliation we say NF. Now we'll try to understand each one of them in detail. First, we will take the need for achievement, that is ENAC. See, the need for achievement is the unconscious concern for excellence in accomplishments through individual efforts. So people with strong ENAC tend to have an internal locus of control, self-confidence, and high energy traits. High ENAC is categorized as the big five dimension of conciseness. People with high ENAC, that is need for achievement, tend to be categorized as wanting to take personal responsibility for solving problems. And always understand, students, they are very goal oriented and they set moderate, realistic, attainable goals. Always I tell you, right, you should always be smart. So when I say smart, what do you mean by smart? It is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, right? They seek challenge, excellence, and individuality, take calculated, moderate risk. So people with high need for achievement think about ways to do better job, how to accomplish something unusual or important, and career progression. The second one, that is the need for power, that is NPOW. The need for power is the unconscious concern for influencing others and seeking positions of authority. So people with strong empower have the dominance trait, and they tend to be self-confident with high energy. And high need for power is categorized as the big five dimension of surgency. So people with a high need for power tend to be categorized as wanting to control the situation, wanting influence or control over others, enjoying competition in which they can win. So people with high need for power tend to be ambitious and have a lower need for affiliation. So they are more concerned about getting their own way, that is influencing others. So they are attuned to power and politics as essential for successful leadership. Then we have the need for affiliation. We call it as NF. The need for affiliation is the unconscious concern for developing, maintaining, and restoring close personal relationships. So people with strong need for affiliation have the trait of sensitivity to others. Correct? So high need for affiliation is categorized as the big five dimension of agreeableness. So people with high NF tend to be characterized as seeking the close relationship with others, wanting to be liked by others, enjoying lots of social activities, and seeking to belong. A moment, students. Okay. So we'll continue, students. The need for affiliation, that is NF, they tend to enjoy developing, helping, and teaching others. They seek jobs as teachers, in human resource management, and in other helping professions. People with high NF are more concerned about what others think of them than about getting their own way. So what we have discussed now, the need for achievement, NAG, the need for power, NPOW, and the need for affiliation, NF. So what they are basically, students, they are achievement motivation theory. So once again, I'll try to repeat. Achievement motivation theory attempts to explain and predict behavior and performance based on a person's need for achievement, power, and affiliation. Correct? So who originally developed it? David McClelland developed achievement motivation theory in the year 1940s. So in the next class, we'll try to understand the attitudes associated with the leadership. So we'll study the leadership attitudes. So as on today, I'll stop the session here. In the next class, we will understand the leadership attitudes. I hope all of you have understood the today's concept, whatever we have discussed. So I will end the session for the day. Thank you so much, students, and have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,